The night the world shifted beneath Arin Vale's feet was the kind of night that started with a whisper and ended with a storm, and though the sky above the city of Durnfall was clear enough to see every trembling star, a tension pulsed through the wind as if the air itself was bracing for what was about to unfold. Something ancient, something forgotten, something hungry. Arin walked alone along the cracked stone walkway that lined the riverbank, the water sluggish, reflecting the distant lanterns like dying fireflies, and in his chest there was a weight, not physical, not visible, but heavy enough to twist his breath. As he replayed the words of the old woman he had met that morning, her hands trembling as she clutched his wrist and whispered, "Your shadow is no longer yours," before disappearing into the marketplace crowd, leaving him with that one cryptic warning echoing through his head all day, a warning he tried to ignore but could not escape as the sun fell behind the jagged skyline and the uneasy quiet of the night took hold. Arin wasn't the type to believe in omens or ancient curses. He was a realist, grounded, focused on his small but dependable job as a courier, someone whose life existed in the edges of other people's stories, delivering letters and packages across the sprawling districts of the city, never imagining he would one day become a central figure in anything other than his own attempts to survive. But tonight as he walked with the river's cold breath on his skin, something in the air felt undeniably wrong, like a chord pulled just slightly out of tune, vibrating against the senses, and he found himself glancing at the shadows around him more often than the path ahead. They didn't look different, not at first, but the longer he stared the more certain he became that his own shadow wasn't quite syncing with his movements, trailing behind just a fraction too slow, like it was thinking before following, like it was learning, and the realization made his skin prickle as if the night itself were leaning closer to watch his reaction, so he forced his steps to quicken, heart pounding harder, each footfall loud on the empty cobblestones, but then something stopped him. No sound, no voice, no touch, just a feeling, a pulse that throbbed through the earth and climbed his spine, and when he turned he saw it, his shadow standing upright on the ground behind him, rising from the pavement like black smoke solidifying into form, its edges rippling like ink disturbed in water, its head tilted in an all-too-human gesture of curiosity, and though its face was blank, Arin felt the unmistakable sensation of being studied, measured, chosen. Fear rooted him in place, but not the kind of fear that sent a person running or screaming. No, it was a heavy, ancient fear that froze his breath and locked his bones, the kind of fear humans had before they knew fire, before they knew shelter, before they knew the names of beasts that hunted them in the long, merciless dark. The shadow took a step toward him and the ground seemed to sigh beneath it, a sound like distant thunder rumbling underwater, and Arin stumbled back, tripping over nothing, landing hard on the cold stone as his breath tore from his lungs in a cloud of white, though the night wasn't cold enough for frost, and the shadow lowered itself in a slow, fluid motion, as if kneeling, reaching a hand, thin, elongated, trembling with restless energy, toward him, and the moment its fingertip brushed the toe of his boot, a surge of memories that were not his flooded his mind. Burning forest screaming with voices, a sky split open by crimson light, an ancient seal cracking like glass beneath immense pressure, and a name spoken in a voice that was both thunder and whisper. Kael'thir, a name. Dripping with power, sorrow, and rage, Arin gasped as the vision tore through him, snapping back into the present with a violent jolt, and suddenly the shadow wasn't looming over him anymore. It was merging with him, dissolving like smoke and sinking back into the outline his body cast on the pavement, leaving him shivering and drenched in sweat, the night unnaturally still around him as if the world were holding its breath, waiting to see what he would do next, and though he wanted to stand, to run, to scream for help, he found he could only choke out a broken whisper. "What's happening to me?" Before the wind changed direction in an instant, carrying with it a distant chorus of whispers, layered voices rising like a storm on the horizon, and in that moment Arin understood with bone-deep certainty that whatever had awakened inside him, or around him, was only the beginning, and that from this night forward nothing in his life would remain simple or safe or small, that forces older than memory had taken notice of him, chosen him, claimed him, and as he staggered to his feet and forced his shaking legs to move, heading toward the faint glow of the district lights ahead, he felt the unmistakable awareness of something following him, not footsteps, not breath, but presence, silent and watchful, and though he tried not to look back, the river's surface reflected what he feared most, his shadow moving on its own, trailing behind him not as an echo but as a companion, and possibly as a threat. The morning after Arin's encounter with the living shadow arrived not with sunlight or warmth but with a shivering gray haze that pressed down on the city like a winter blanket, muffling sound and staining every building with a ghostly pallor, and Arin awoke in his tiny apartment drenched in sweat, his sheets tangled around his legs as if he had been fighting them in his sleep for hours, Though he remembered nothing except flashes of crimson skies and the phantom sensation of a hand made from darkness gripping his chest, he staggered from his cot to the small washbasin near the window, splashing cold water on his face, trying to steady his breath as he stared at his reflection, and for a moment, just a fleeting, disorienting heartbeat, his reflection blinked out of sync with him, its eyes lingering open half a second longer, a delay so subtle and yet so wrong that his stomach twisted, and he clenched the edge of the basin until his knuckles whitened, whispering to himself that he was tired, hallucinating, still shaken from last night, but deep down he knew the truth in a way that bypassed logic and screamed directly through instinct. The thing inside his shadow had not vanished, it had settled, coiled, waiting, and now it watched him from behind the glass like a caged predator contemplating freedom. Outside, the city moved with its usual restless rhythm, vendors shouting their morning prices, carriage wheels clattering against cobblestones, guards barking orders from street corners, but everything felt distant, muted, as if Arin was standing behind a thin veil that separated him from the world he had always known, and when he stepped onto the street, pulling his coat tight against the cold mist, he found himself scanning every alleyway and rooftop, expecting at any moment to see that same ripple of sentient darkness looming behind him, but nothing appeared, nothing chased him, yet the invisible pressure in the air grew heavier with each passing minute, as though the city itself were holding its breath in anticipation of something ancient stirring beneath its foundations. Arin's only plan was to seek answers from the one person who seemed to know more than she should, the old woman from the marketplace, so he hurried toward the vendor district, weaving through the growing crowds, his heart pounding faster each time his own shadow stretched or shifted beneath his feet, but when he reached the stall where she had been the day before, his chest tightened. The booth was abandoned, overturned baskets scattered on the ground, a thin red ribbon tied around the post fluttering weakly in the wind like a warning flag left behind by someone forced to flee in a hurry, and before Arin could even process the sight, a deep, resonant hum vibrated through the street, so low it was felt more than heard, and the people around him froze, their conversations dying mid-sentences, every head turned toward the horizon where a towering black spire, one that had never existed in Durnfall before, now pierced the sky like a jagged shard of obsidian, shimmering with an otherworldly aura that pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. Fear surged through the crowd, a ripple of panic spreading from person to person as whispers erupted. The seal is breaking, it's a beacon, the watchers will return, phrases Arin didn't understand but felt deep in his bones, as if the mysterious visions from the previous night had carved meaning into his subconscious, and without warning the ground beneath his feet shook violently, sending people stumbling, carts tipping, and birds scattering in frantic bursts from the rooftops, while the spire released a wave of dark energy that washed over the city like a silent scream, extinguishing lanterns and cracking windows as it passed, and when the echo faded, Arin realized with chilling clarity that the connection between him and the shadow had strengthened, because he could feel something now, something alive, moving beneath the surface of his body, crawling like cold fire through his veins, whispering ancient words in a language that tasted like smoke and thunder. Panic clawed at him, but before he could collapse, a hand grabbed his shoulder, firm and steady, and when he turned he found himself staring into the sharp, determined eyes of a woman dressed in dark leather armor, a glowing sigil etched into the metal plate on her chest, a sigil that matched the afterimage burned into his vision from last night's dream, and she said in a voice so calm it cut straight through his terror, "Arin Vale, you need to come with me. Now, before the shadow within you awakens fully." The words hit him like a strike to the chest, knocking the breath from his lungs. She knew his name, she knew what he carried, she knew what was happening, and before he could ask who she was or how she knew, she pulled him into motion, leading him through the panicked crowd with practiced precision, her strides confident, controlled, purposeful, while behind them the spire pulsed again with a deeper, darker glow, as if responding to Arin's presence, calling to him, summoning him, and the voice inside his mind whispered a single name once more, Kael'thir, this time not as a memory, but as a promise.